Hey guys, what's going on? Long time no video. So, just to clear things up, and before I get into what this video is about, the reason why there's been no videos for so long is because we haven't been playing. I, a couple months ago, started a new job just as the 2016 season was kicking off. It was very intensive, a lot of exams to keep the job, stress levels were high. No time for Pokemon. Kieran went back to college. He was working, and when he wasn't working, he was studying. There was weeks when, like, I mean, weeks and weeks. Like, there, at one stage, there was like 4 weeks where I think I saw him for an hour, and he lives 8 doors down from me, which is just insane. Anyway, that's not the whole thing. The the cutting to the chase is that this weekend, um, March 11th or 12th or something like that, myself and Kieran went to our very first regionals of the year. Heck, it was our first major tournament since this time last year. Kieran hadn't competed in a tournament for nearly 2 years, since UK Nationals in 2014. I took part in the same regionals that we took part in this weekend, this time last year, the Bangor regionals in Northern Ireland, just located outside of Belfast. To give you an idea of our location, we were driving from Dublin, so it's about a 2.5 hour drive. It's nothing compared to you US players and you European players. What the travel you guys sometimes have to do is insane. For us, this was a trip up the road because it was convenient. So, how did we get on? Cut to the chase. Really well. Ridiculously well. Insanely well. So, in terms of playtesting, Kieran has managed to get down to Pokemon League a lot and play with a couple of very good friends of ours. Some very good players. Shout out to Rory and Joe. Two guys know the standard meta inside out, have been competing extremely well, and have just unfortunately bubbled a bit this season. But I expect them to go on to really big things next year. I think this year's their learning curve. Um, in terms of me, I haven't played. Me playing Pokemon cards is hanging out with Kieran on a Sunday night and maybe just getting a game in. So we decided to go to this regionals a couple weeks ago because we could, life was good again. And how I got on? Well, I came third. I top cut in my fourth ever um, major tournament, and I came third, losing to obviously the eventual winner. Kieran, even though he had a bad start to the day, came 11th, just short of missing it on waiting. Actually, Kieran had one of the strongest resistances of the tournament by the time he had finished. Rory came top eight as well, one of the guys from our local league. It was a field of 33 players. For the US players, that's not a lot. For us, that was huge. Now, obviously, like me and Kieran have the experience of going to Nats and seeing hundreds of players, and that was really intense, really insane. But 33 players, these weren't just like guys who just picked up decks. These were guys who had traveled across from the UK, proper guys who are like chasing top 22 to have their full paid invite to Worlds. Um, I'll put it to you this way: we play players like Ryan Morehouse, so like that's the level we're at here. There's no messing around with these players. They came to win because they want the CPs. They're chasing it. Like they are chasing the dream of a free Worlds. So I'd love for Kieran to be here, but unfortunately he's away and he's actually flown off to another country. I wanted to do this video together, but just in terms of time frames, it didn't feel right to leave this video for 3 weeks after the tournament happened, because mainly because I'm still so excited now. So I have an obligatory substitute. Love my jokes. So in terms of prizes, I finished with 12 booster packs from Breakpoint, which I don't know if I'm going to open as a video. I probably will. I'll probably record it after this. Um, and then I got two playmats. Now, this is the first one I got. I love it. Groudon is absolutely amazing. I think this is one of the prettiest mats out there. Now, I'm getting my Greninja mat, but unfortunately, because we're international players, our the the TO, who was Replay Games, and shout out to them. They put on an absolutely great day. The judges were awesome on that. They just didn't get them in time, so he's actually going to ship it out to me when he gets it, which I can't wait to frame. You know, everyone's going to be like, "Why are you framing that?" I was like, "I'll probably never do this again." In terms of top cutting, because I just ran hot all day. So it was 6 rounds of Swiss, followed by top eight. My first matchup, round one, was a new player that I played. He was running Lugia Mega Mewtwo, an odd deck, but it seemed to work for the player himself. Round two, I got paired against Ryan Morehouse. If you don't know who he is, he's like one of the UK's greatest players. He's only 17 and he just dominates the game. Like, there's so many articles and different things, and like he's not called the king of the Veltal decks for no reason. And that's what he was running there at the weekend. Game one, I beat him. I was like, what? We were running slightly different variants on Maxis of Veltal. This is my deck. I'm sweet pink sleeves. This build is what I consider to be my best deck build. I can't take all the credit for this build without Kieran. Between himself and myself, we deck tested this deck extensively over 2.5, 3 weeks. When we kind of just settled on this was the deck we were going to be playing, we played it so much against each other because we knew the mirror match was going to be huge. And if you didn't know how to play the mirror match, you weren't going to beat any other deck with it. So, you know, you have to be prepared for that. And that was kind of the story of the day, mirror match after mirror match. So I beat Ryan Morehouse game one. He beats me game two, and it's a tie. I am absolutely ecstatic. A tie against Ryan Morehouse. I'll take that any day because when I got paired, I was convinced to lose. I was so nervous playing my first game. Thought I was shuffling cards like this. Game three was actually against a local Belfast player named Sam, who I'd recently I had met before at other tournaments or like local league challenges and stuff like that, and actually at Bangor regionals last year. Good player, running a Sableye Darkrai Yveltal deck that to me felt out of place. Running Acrobike and stuff like that. It was his decision, his call. Personally, for myself, I didn't think it was a good call, and I beat him. I beat him comfortably. Um, Game four was against actually Sam's friend. I've totally forgotten his name, but he was running Lando Bats. Lando Bats was a horrific matchup for me. One, because I hadn't play tested it, and I hadn't even thought of that deck for over a year. I didn't think it was going to be a thing, so I completely disregarded it. And to make things worse, in both games we played, Archeops was prized on me, which was just horrific, especially in a Bats matchup when all you were hunting for through your deck is to get a turn one of these. It is just horrendous. That, like, you're starting with a Jirachi up front. It's just not a good time. The It ended up being an extremely tight game where unfortunately the player misplayed, broke the rules, and I won via excuse me, and I won via prize penalty. It's not a way I wanted to win. It's not a way that you like to win. The player himself was unhappy, but told me to take the prizes because if it was him, he would have. Um, and only because he said that did I do it. It's a horrible way to win a round, but it is what it is. And without it, I wouldn't have gone 3-1, or yeah, 3-1 at that stage. So then, round round five, I come across. I'm top tabled with a great UK player by the name of Charles. His second name eludes me right now, but he's running Totina, which I know is a horrendous matchup for my deck because it runs 7 supporter cards. Um, Relies heavily on items, and any sort of energy acceleration is required by items. And he, before I even sit down, he's like, "Hey, do you want an ID?" I shook his hand so quick. I was like, I am all over that because I knew how bad that matchup was going to be. So it comes to round 6. I look at the weightings, I look at the rankings, and realize I have to win round 6, game 6, to make cut. So we play game 1. Well, both myself and my opponent, a player from Scotland, he um, who also has qualified for Worlds as well as Charles and Ryan Morehouse. So like that's kind of the level we were dealing with at the weekend. Both of us, so game 6, he's playing Eveltal Bats or he's playing the pretty much the exact same deck I'm running. Um, game 1, we play, I win somehow. Um, I managed to just get it gallayed up and take some prizes. It was just, yeah, it was one of those where it was like nothing's on, suddenly everything's on. Game 2 goes to time. I have 1 prize left. He has 2, and I misplay. I misplay horrifically. Time's called. It's round. It's time's called. I was turn 1. He was turn. Or sorry. I was turn 0. He was turn 1, 2, and then it was back to him for the final turn. He needed to take 2 prizes. I had a Darkrai with what I consider one of the best techs into this deck, the Fighting Fury Belt, on my up front with 180 damage on it. I had a Fright Night Veltal, and I had a Keldeo in my hand. I was purposely playing, or I was forced to play a small bench because he played Parallel City. I was very conscious of having a high bench count, or very conscious of what I could drop on the field. So I go to drop the Keldeo, I take it back. I'm thinking and I'm panicking and I'm panicking, and I'm like, he can't win if I only give up 1 prize and I put the Fright Night Yveltal up. And of course, in turn, instantly knock out my own Darkrai, giving him the 2 prizes to tie the game. I was tired, I was upset, I was panicked, and I thought I'd ruined my chances of hitting top 8 at a tournament, which would have meant that 2 years in a row, 2 major misplays in the last games of the day cost me top 8. So I was really annoyed. Kieran tried to console me. I was sitting, I was thinking, I was disgusted. Then pairings came up. Turns out I was 6th. And to my absolute delight, Rory, my friend from League, came 3rd. He was running Rye Eels. So that was like the one match everyone was trying to avoid. And so we're hanging there, and then that means like he's 3rd, I'm 6th. I get paired Yveltal, Darkrai, Maxi, Gallade, whatever you want to call it, Maxi's Yveltal, Dark Maxi, whatever you guys call your deck, against Rye Eels. Game 1 lasted 40 minutes in top 8. We both were drawing, passing, drawing, passing. I was like, the my Darkrai's were so ineffective against that deck that I had resorted to bringing up his Keldeo, thinking he had played all of his energy and had a Fright Night Yveltal up the top with no energy on it. His last 2 cards in his deck were energy that he was able to draw, manually attach, and bring up Raikou and take the win because at that stage he only needed 2 prizes. So it's top 8. We'd spent nearly 50 minutes in game 1, and somehow I managed to pull a win out on turn 3 of game 2 to take it to sudden death. Unfortunately, Rory horrendously misplayed. I felt terrible for him, but it gave me the chance I needed. Um, I had a Gallade up front. He powered up a Raikou and had a Raikou EX on the bench, or Ryu, I should say. and he just left it there, and he left himself one energy short to get the instant KO on my Gallade. He attacked. I picked up Lysander, boom, 2 prize swing. I took the win. From there, I was sniping the bench with them, chasing it down with Fright Night Eveltal and Dark Eyes, um, making it awkward for him. Time's call. I win it on the final turn. We go to sudden death, 1 prize, 1 win, and he opts to go first. Of course, he draws his 7 cards. I draw my 7. He puts down his basic. I put down mine. I flip mine. It's Seismitoad, the one copy of Toad I run in the deck. He flips over. Dynamo. All he can do is manually attach a lightning energy. Pass. In my hand, I had Laser, Fighting Fury Belt, double colorless. 40 HP Dynamo was gone. I moved on to top 8. Or top 4, I should say. For top 4, I came across Charles again because he was the number 1 seed at that stage. Him running, this time there was no escaping Totina, and it was a horrendous match. All I could do was draw a pass, draw a pass. He was so good at playing. He had that deck down to a T. Everyone who he played, it was the same story all weekend or all day. Just draw pass, lose, draw pass, lose. And like, he'd disrupt your energy as you were getting something going. He'd disrupt your hand as you thought you were concealing something. Fantastic player. Himself and Ryan Morehouse ended up getting to the end, and Ryan Morehouse, as great as a player as he is, had to do the exact same thing as I did, which made me feel comfortable. Now, like that being said, I didn't like I came top 4. I was so happy, excited. First ever championship points I've ever earned. Getting a mat, getting all these boosters, getting a Gengar. Like it was one of the best feelings. Right now it's 2 days after the tournament and I still feel 10 feet tall. And this is what the game does to players. I'm a nothing player who doesn't play very often, and this just made me feel amazing. And this is why I play cards. My favorite match of that day was my game against Rory. We laughed non-stop during that game. What should have been probably my most nerve-wracking game was my most enjoyable game. What was the scariest game for me that day? Was round 1. Playing against a player who's never played in a tournament before. And because I knew how important game 1 was in a tournament, and how me and Kieran knew how important game 1 was. This deck, Yveltal, I've been playing this for 3 years now, since it came out. It's kind of been like the story of my cards. We started with really bad decks, and because we learned to play with really bad decks and succeed with bad decks, when we play good decks, me and Kieran play insane. Our styles match each other to the point where we know what to do. If I have advice for any player, it's play your own game. If a player's trying to force you to play fast, breathe. It's your game. When I was rushing to try and make it to top 8, I took a step back. Not literally, just mentally, and just said to myself, you can do it. You play the deck. You know your deck inside out. Enjoy the game. At the end of the day, it's a game. You meet amazing people. One of the most gratifying things